Two things, folks. One of them is that you've heard me speak about America within Scripture. I'm going to give you another understanding on that today. Now, also, I said in my last video, I said that I was going to talk about Iran's proxies, and Israel, and what's actually happening there. And I said, if you remember, towards the end of the video, I said, you may not like what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to stick with Scripture as much as I possibly can. Question commonly asked, Ross, really, when do you think the rapture is going to happen? And my answer is I only have Scripture to go by, folks. And I have Paul, 1 Thessalonians 5:3, tell me, in my understanding, as he speaks about the rapture. He says, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Well, when does the sudden destruction happen? Well, I can say 90% certainty it hasn't been said yet, otherwise the sudden destruction would be here. Or if it has been said, we just haven't understood it as it being said as Paul pointed it out, in that the sudden destruction could happen at any time. Let's keep all of that in mind. Let's get into Israel. Let's get into Hamas. Let's get into Iran. First of all, I think most of you know that, let's see, President Trump and Iran supposedly had face-to-face conversations. I think, and don't think Trump was there, it's his envoy that was there, that it was from room to room. That's the best that I can understand it. United States, Iran holds rare talks in Oman as envoy pushes diplomacy with pressure. Trump team holds constructive face-to-face nuclear talks and will meet again next weekend. So next Saturday they're going to have another meeting. This is truly a tactic of Iran. As what they do is they say they're going to do something with no intentions of doing it, but just to create a pause, to create more time. Because this week doesn't mean because they're going to have talks on Saturday, next Saturday, that, okay, Iran says, well, we'll stop all our nuclear activity right now. Of course not. A lot of people believe that Iran is already there, if not very, very close to having it. How many times have we heard that before? To having a nuclear weapon. The pieces are falling into place. For Iran to make a nuclear deal with the United States, experts say. The United States describes the discussion. Here we go. This is Trump's diplomacy here. This is his making a deal. This is Trump here. Well, the White House describes the discussions as very positive construction, wanting to resolve differences through diplomacy if possible. So you understand what that statement actually is this is to gain an okay with the international communities that Trump is giving Iran every possible way out before it strikes it. So if Israel strikes and America helps, the international communities would say, you didn't even give them a chance to try. Well, Trump can now say, well, yeah, I did. That's part of Trump's making a deal. That's just how he works. Military pressure appears to be a big reason Iran's coming to the table. Trump demanding do-or-die nuclear talks. Now, here comes more or less the meat of this subject here. All options are on the table. This is coming out of out of Trump's administration. Deployed to the Middle East, we know about 6 B-2 bombers along with aircraft carriers, a couple of aircraft carriers. Iran either has to talk or get their nuclear facilities bombed. That coming out of the Trump administration. So you understand what's going on right now. This is that pause, hold, Iran warning. Hold it, wait. Yeah, okay, we'll come to the table. They have no intentions to come to the table. All right, let's go on. Let's move on in from there. So you understand, again, what's going on. Another week? What happens after that? Then we'll start putting a plan together. That'll take another month for him to put a plan together. Would Trump allow that? Rhetorical question. Just think it through. IDF fully surrounds Rafah. We're moving into Gaza Strip here, and so that you'll understand what's going on here. The Israel Defense Force announced at noon Saturday that it had completed the capture of Morag Corridor in the southern Gaza Strip, cutting off the city of Rafah from Can Yunis. Now, basically understand that's the upper half plus, maybe say 2/3 of the Gaza Strip that has been corridored. It's been set off. It's been what Israel's doing is they're coming in with this heavy equipment and then they build these roads, wide, heavy-duty, gravel-laid roads, and that becomes a line that no one can go from south back north. So what they're doing is they're sectioning off parts. It doesn't mean there isn't still little cells within northern Gaza Strip or in the middle of Gaza Strip that can still fight. But for main practical purposes, they would be small, and then they're hidden within some of the refugee camps, which I want you to notice that Israel is given the liberty to give notice in a refugee camp to evacuate, and then it goes in and strikes. Israel couldn't do that with the Biden administration. So now you see Trump releasing the power of Israel to be able to defend its troops and to start corridoring off these areas. So basically what's being said right now is that Israel has, in a lower western corner called Rafah, basically the main power of Hamas. But that's where the hostages are. So here comes that conundrum. This is that problem again. If Israel is too forceful, would they kill some of the hostages? If it gets too serious, would Hamas kill some of the hostages? So this is that part to where caution is needed. Now, the next point, and this one's important, is Hamas feels the squeeze enough to start calling out for another ceasefire. They're saying 40 to 70 days, releasing up to 8 live and 10 dead. And Israel said that they will consider this. So what I'm trying to point out to you now, and here comes that part I don't think not too many people are going to like, that it becomes very obvious at this particular point that, again, what we're up against in the circumstances allows us to have to sit back and wait, for we don't see anything suddenly happening. It seems like Israel's main goal above all, everything, is to get as many hostages back as they can. They've been in agreement to that before, and that's how they got some of the hostages back. If Israel figures it can get another 6, 8, 10 of them back, and again, that would be over that 70 or 40-day period of time, okay, Israel might just hold off on eliminating Hamas altogether. All right, one of the things that we can keep in mind at this particular point is we can't rule out the possibility of Iran doing a preemptive strike. That would make sense a little bit when it comes to Zechariah 12, when God says he'll defend by blinding the horses and confusing the men. That's Zechariah 12. So we know there's some sort of action going on here. So I did mention that in my last video, but it was in the description box below the video. I should have said it during the video, so I said it today. Let's keep that in mind. And then now the other thing is if Iran looks like it's going to be, let's see, what do I have here? Hamas, no other choice. Okay. Possibility of Iran with a pre-exemptive strike. And then also now, if anything happens to Iran, and this was the point, I got myself confused here a little bit. The point is what would be Hamas's reason for going on if it looks like Iran is going to come to an end with its nuclear ambitions? Iran is going to be defeated. Would Hamas then say, we need an exit out of here to just continue to exist as a group? And might they make a deal to actually lay down their arms and then be dispersed throughout other countries? That Israel's already said that they would do that. All right, I want to get back to the subject again, folks. I hope that was helpful and brought it around, and that's the reason why I said, and even in other videos, folks, I said, and I saw this way back, and I said, you know, this could go into March, it could go into April. I was saying that back in January and February. And I know everyone wants to, Ross, when's the rapture going to happen? Again, all I have is Scripture, and to follow the events on the ground, and then see if they match Scripture. And I hope I did that. I hope that was helpful to you. Syria's new resistance takes on Israel and the United States acts of evil. Wow, that's in the description today. One of many articles that I've been reading. I brought this up before. We've talked about it. Is America within Scripture? And I said, yes, it is. I said Micah 4:7 laid it out very clearly. So Micah 4 and then verse 7. That there is another far-off nation that will be specifically controlled by God. So there's two nations. God will be controlling Israel, Jerusalem. It will be controlling America. That's the only other nation I can think of that God would have something to do with. And then I separated the two, the Jewish people, the Jewish family, God's children, then the Gentile world in America. Now, that doesn't mean America's going to have a free ride through the tribulation. That's a whole other discussion for another day. I'm sure there's going to be, if you read Revelation 13 and what the Antichrist is going to do, that's going to be worldwide. Okay. Now back to this, bringing up this idea, I'm just reinforcing it, of America within Scripture. Listen to this. This is incredible. Israel strikes on Damascus. The overthrow of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad may have marked a major blow to the Iranian-aligned axis of resistance coalition. Well, let's go on. But a new group styling itself in a similar manner is that of Syria, emerged to challenge the interests of the United States and its feuding top Middle Eastern allies. I'll explain it all here in just a second. Syria now at the center of a regional struggle for influence between Israel and Turkey. The militia, known as Allah al-Bas, or the possessors of might, argues it is positioned with the axis of resistance. Okay? Positioned with the axis of resistance against the acts of global evil, of which Washington is said to be part due to President Donald Trump. Let me explain. You have a resistance against an act of evil. You have America, Israel, against an act of evil. But that's not what he's saying. He just switched that around. He's saying that they are the resistance against America and against Israel, and they're the axis of evil. They just switched that back around again. I'll tell you why that's important here as we go on. The rationale for this is for praising the role of a Zionist entity and a Turkish occupation. This is only natural given that the United States is the sponsor of chaos, terrorism, and evil around the world, and a political office, get that straight, political office of the group officially known as the Islamic Resistance Front in Syria. Again, back to its Allah al-Bas, a new forming group that here is saying that it's the United States that is the axis of evil. But the group emphasizes that it distinguishes between the United States government and its people. What? Okay, hold on. So there's an axis of evil they believe that's in there, but it's not the people? Who's the people that it is not? The U.S. government and its people. We believe that successive American administrations do not represent the American people. Here we go again. This axis of resistance, that's in America here. That's not explaining. That's the what do they call it here again? Successive American administration do not represent the American people and do not reflect the character of sound coexistence. They're saying that their way is coexistence and America is not coexistence. And people that are American people, let's see, therefore the group added, we do not address a message to those who do not represent their people, but rather represent the dreams of a global government that is trying to dissolve humanity in order to achieve a great gain around the world. Again, back to those Democrats here in America, and I'm not talking about all the people that are Democrats. I'm talking about that Biden administration only brought about because of what it was done to prior presidents as it built up to be, which is now understood that the Biden administration was actually being welcomed in the Middle East and seen as part of the resistance, and the Trump is the axis of evil in all Trump's administration and all the Republicans. Do you see how they just got done dividing America in such a way that those that lost in a tremendous way here within the United States, they lost the elections, they gave up the House, they gave up the Senate, had to, and they have really no power. That's those people that the Middle East and this new forming, wanting a world power, is saying that they are the ones that they're talking to. They are the good guys. Trump administration and what he's doing is the acts of evil. Put all that together in thinking in your mind that is America yet still possible to be part of an end time scenario, basically after the tribulation, to where it will become a strong nation far off, okay, again, Micah 4:7, that'll be controlled by God, but will be the Gentile Christian world from right there. The discussion of the Gentile world and the saints are two different groups. Those that believe God's Jew is the Jewish God of Israel and his son that is the Messiah will have life eternal, many on this earth. 1 John 3:16, it says, will have life eternal. Those that believe, those are the saints. Now the tribulation happens, and that free gift of salvation just by believing goes away. But that doesn't mean there won't be more Gentiles that come around to believing in God, the Jews' God. And those have a home in the future, and that's America. All right, I think I made my point. I think I made the point. Let me wrap this up. Again, we have a lot of time yet before us, before anything happens. Ross, when is the rapture going to happen? I just gave you scripture. I don't know. I do see a certain amount of time needed yet for us to go forward, but let's don't give up on that idea. It could happen when we least expect it, and that's in Matthew 24, I believe 44. My memory sometimes gets numbers mixed up. So it's right in that area where it says it could happen when you least expect it. Let's don't forget the idea also of preemptive. Iran could be setting up for that right now. If there is a preemptive, Zechariah 12, God will confuse the weapons in such a way that they're not going to go where they're supposed to. And then God delivers his people by removing the surrounding enemies so they can continue sacrificing. All scripture, all we've talked about over and over again. I hope this was helpful to you and gives you some food for thought. Next Sunday we'll definitely be here. And if something should happen in between, I'll definitely make another video. Folks, until then, again, just hoping that this is helpful. Until next video, okay.